Yo, what's going on, guys? Today I'm going to be giving my NFL DraftKings picks for Week 10. We got an 11-game main slate for this week. I'm going to go position by position and hit on some guys that I like at each position. We'll try and give some of the top-tier plays I like, maybe some mid-tier plays, and if there's value at each position, I'll be sure to give some guys I like. I do record all these videos on Monday, usually during the afternoon, so these are kind of like my first looks at the slate. Nothing really set in stone. Things will happen throughout the week. Like we saw last week, Deshaun Watson got injured. Like I said, I record on Monday. I believe he got injured like Wednesday or Thursday. So nothing is set in stone. These are always my first looks. Things could change as we go. So I'm just going to be hitting on the guys that just really stand out to me. Early looks at the slate, guys that I think I'm going to be targeting in my lineups come Sunday. So yeah, let's go ahead and get started looking at quarterback. Alright, so at quarterback this week, I got 5 quarterbacks written down, maybe a 6th. We'll get onto him in a little bit. But up top, Dak Prescott. I think Dak Prescott, if you want to pay up at quarterback this week, he's definitely in play going up against the Falcons. I think this is a game you're going to want to have exposure to. This game should be pretty high scoring, should be a very close, competitive game as well. And Dak's just been so solid this year. If this game can stay close, if it is competitive, you know he's going to have a big role, especially if Zeke gets suspended. I know he played last week. This suspension thing, we don't really know. If Zeke is suspended, obviously that's going to give a big boost for Dak. He's going to have to throw a lot more. They're probably going to go a little bit more pass heavy if Zeke does wind up getting suspended. But we don't really know with that Zeke suspension. It's just kind of been like a roller coaster. But if he somehow's out, Dak could just have a heavy workload here. Could have to throw the ball probably 40 times. And like I said, Dak's been so solid this year. If you want to pay up at quarterback, he's definitely a viable option. Not going to tell you not to play him. He's 7,300. He's the most expensive quarterback on the board. But I think, given the matchup, I think he's worth that price tag. So I like Dak up top. You want to pay up for him. I think he's definitely a viable option. Matthew Stafford, 6,800, playing at home against the Browns. I don't really like this price tag on Matthew Stafford. 6,800 does seem like a lot to pay for him. But it is obviously a great matchup, playing at home. We know Stafford plays well at home in the Dome. Going up against the Browns, we know a team that's just not good defensively. Like I said, I am recording this on Monday. Stafford and the Lions, they do play on Monday Night Football against the Packers. So Stafford looks really good Monday night. Maybe you want to target him here. Maybe he'll be able to keep things going. He has put up the last 2 games against the Saints and against the Steelers. He has put up over 20 DraftKings points, so he's been playing well. Wouldn't surprise me if he had another game with over 20 DK points here against the Browns. Hopefully this game can stay close. It can stay competitive. And if that's the case, Stafford should definitely play a big part, should definitely be able to put up over 20 DK points. So I think if you also want to pay up a quarterback, Matthew Stafford, definitely a viable option this week at 6,800. Then 100 less, Jared Goff playing at home against Houston, 6,700. I think Jared Goff definitely in play here, even though the price tag has risen a ton. He is coming off his best game of the season where he put up 31 DraftKings points against the Giants. He had 311 yards in that game, 4 touchdowns. Just a really good game overall for Goff. And he's in another good spot here going up against Houston. Houston's secondary, their defense has really been struggling lately. They've lost some key players like J.J. Watt. Just really been struggling as of late. So I think Jared Goff definitely a viable option this week at 6,700. I don't know if I'd rather have him or Stafford. I think I'd play Stafford if I'm going to pay up that much. I'd take Stafford over Goff, but Goff, we've seen he has the upside. And this is a great matchup, so it wouldn't surprise me at all if Goff had another solid game. So I think him, Dak, and Stafford are the guys I'd pay up for, like in this top tier. I think I'm going to be off Drew Brees, 6,900 going on the road to Buffalo. That's probably not a spot I'm going to look to attack. I just don't really like playing Brees on the road, and Brees just hasn't done much all year. Even when he had a good matchup last week against Tampa Bay, he still didn't do much in that game. So looking at those top 4 guys, I like 3 of them except Drew Brees. Going to be off of Drew Brees this week. Then other quarterbacks I like, 6,500, Matt Ryan playing at home against Dallas. I think Matt Ryan, a really good play this week. Really nice price tag on him. The Falcons are going to be at home this week where we know they play very well. Just as a team, the Falcons play well at home. Like I said earlier, I think this is a game you're going to want to have exposure to. So if you don't want to get Dallas exposure, you don't want to play Dak, definitely look to play Matt Ryan here at 6,500. He's probably one of my favorite quarterbacks early looks at the slate. He is a guy I'm definitely going to be targeting here. Probably pairing him with Julio Jones. I think that's going to be a pretty popular combo this week. But for good reason, just a really good spot. So definitely like Matt Ryan in the 6K range. I think he is definitely in play. 6,500. Same with Tyrod Taylor, 6,300 playing at home against the Saints. I would probably prefer Matt Ryan for 200 more, but Tyrod definitely in play here, playing at home. Tyrod, the Bills, they play well at home. It's a good matchup against the Saints, so definitely think Tyrod's in play if you're also looking at that 6K range. And looking for some value quarterbacks that we can target this week, 6K and under. There isn't a ton that I really like here. We have options like Jameis Winston, but he is currently questionable. It doesn't look like he's going to play, so we can't target him at 5,400. Mariota, 5,800, playing at home against the Bengals. Mariota just hasn't been that good this year. He hasn't really done much. Hasn't really been running much either this year. And it is a tough matchup against the Bengals. They do have a pretty good pass defense. So even though Mariota's price tag is really nice, I'm probably just going to shy away from him. Don't have a ton of confidence in him. On the other side of that game, maybe Andy Dalton, 5,300, going up against the Titans. The Titans' pass defense is pretty bad, but Dalton hasn't looked that good this year. He hasn't looked that good as of late. He's really been struggling. He might be without A.J. Green this week as well. A.J. Green could possibly be suspended for this game. Like I said, guys, I am recording this on Monday. So as of today, we haven't got any news on A.J. Green being suspended, but it wouldn't surprise me at all. Throughout the week, we get note of that because of that fight he got in with Jalen Ramsey. A.J. Green could miss this game, and if that's the case, Dalton could really struggle here. So I don't know if I'd go to him, but maybe if A.J. Green plays, Dalton could have some success at 5,300 against the Titans. And then one more quarterback I wanted to mention, a really cheap guy, maybe actually might be a cash play this week because you always want to go cheap at quarterback and cash. So that way you can fit in the studs like Le'Veon Bell, Antonio Brown. You want to play those guys in cash. So going cheap at quarterback's always a route I like to do in cash. And C.J. Beathard might be an option this week at 4,800, playing at home against the Giants. Beathard actually hasn't been that bad since he started. He hasn't really looked good like real life wise, but fantasy he's actually been pretty good. He's getting the job done. And if you look in his last game against Arizona, Beathard threw the ball 51 times in that game. So they're obviously going to let him throw the ball a ton. They pretty much have their quarterback set up for the future now that they got Jimmy Garoppolo. But it doesn't look like Garoppolo is going to play any this year. It looks like Beathard's going to finish out the year for the 49ers. So he could be an intriguing play while he is starting. He does have the ability to provide you fantasy points with his legs. He does have 2 rushing touchdowns this year. So I think C.J. Beathard playing at home against the Giants. The Giants just got torched by Jared Goff. Like I said, Jared Goff had his best game of the year against the Giants. So I think C.J. Beathard might actually be an intriguing play this week. If you're looking to go cheap at quarterback, I think he's an option at 4,800. But yeah, those are just some quarterbacks. Early looks at the slate. Those are some guys that catch my eye. Let's go ahead and move on to running back. Alright, so at running back, up top here, we got Le'Veon Bell, 9,800, going up against the Colts. I shouldn't have to tell you to play Le'Veon Bell. He's a great play on the slate. The Colts, just not a good defense. If you can fit in Le'Veon Bell, he's a guy you're going to want to jam into your lineups this week. So I'm not going to talk much about him. He's a great play. But looking at other running backs we can target, 7,200, definitely like Melvin Gordon here, going up against Jacksonville. We know Jacksonville, very good pass defense, but to the run, they're not as good against the run as they are against the pass. So I think this could be a good spot for Melvin Gordon. This guy gets a ton of work. He gets usually over 20 carries just about every game. He's also involved in the passing game as well. He got 25 rushing attempts against Oakland and also saw 12 targets in that game. Dude just has a crazy workload. And he is only 7,200. That's a really nice price tag for a guy getting nearly 30 touches just about every game. So I think Melvin Gordon, 7,200, definitely a guy I'm going to have my eye on this week, going up against Jacksonville. With the Saints running backs, Mark Ingram, Alvin Kamara, if I had to choose one of them, I'd much rather have Kamara for 500 less than Ingram. I know Kamara isn't really the workhorse back, but Kamara just more explosive, has a ton of upside. We saw it last week against Tampa Bay. He put up 32 DraftKings points in that game, got 6 catches for 84 yards, and a receiving touchdown. Also ran the ball 10 times for 68 yards and got a rushing touchdown as well. So he's still seeing nearly 20 touches just about every game. The price tag's really high for a guy only seeing 20 touches, but with his explosiveness, the kind of upside this guy has, he could definitely provide you upside even with that expensive price tag. So if you're getting exposure to the Saints running backs, definitely give me Kamara over Ingram. Then looking for some other running backs we can target. A guy that really stands out to me here, really cheap in my opinion, Devonta Freeman, just 6K, playing at home against Dallas. Devonta Freeman might be one of my favorite plays on this slate, just given his price tag. This price just seems way too cheap for Freeman, especially playing at home, where we know Freeman plays very well. The Falcons play very well at home. I believe Adam Levitan tweeted this out This is the cheapest we've had Devonta Freeman since October of last year. He hasn't been this cheap in over a year. And I know he hasn't played that well lately. That's probably why his price is this cheap. But like I said, he's playing at home. Freeman's played well at home this year. I'll pull up his home splits here. At home, he's averaged 16 DraftKings points this year, whereas on the road, only 13 DK points. So a great spot for Freeman. The price tag's very nice. This game should be very high scoring, should be competitive. So love Devonta Freeman here, running back. Probably one of my favorite running backs on the slate. Just 6K. Definitely think he's a little bit too cheap. And then a couple more cheaper running backs, I like. Got two more written down. Lamar Miller going up against the Rams. I think Lamar Miller is definitely in a good spot here. Love his price tag as well at just $5,200. We know now that Watson is out for the season. Tom Savage isn't going to be just chucking the ball 30, 40, 50 times every game. They're going to rely on their running game a bit. So that could mean increased touches or increased workload for Lamar Miller. Could get some more touches. And it's just $5,200 going up against the Rams defense that hasn't been that good this year against the run. I think this is a good spot for Lamar Miller. So I definitely think if you're looking to go cheap at running back this week, you need a cheap guy. He's a viable option here. I'm at $5,200. And then one more cheap running back I think I'm going to be targeting this week at $4,500. Orleans Darkwa going up against the 49ers. I think Orleans Darkwa definitely a value option you can target this week. He did see 16 rushing attempts against the Rams last week. Also got 2 targets as well. Got 2 receptions, so he got 18 touches in that game. Obviously, this is a much better matchup this week, going up against the 49ers, a team that we just know is not good defensively. And I think Darkwa has pretty much solidified himself as the number 1 back for the Giants. So he could definitely be a viable value play this week at running back at just $4,500. If we need a cheap play, he's probably going to be someone that we look to, given the price tag and the matchup. So definitely have your eye on Orleans Darkwa this week. Could be a viable running back for value at $4,500. But yeah, guys, I think that's pretty much it for running back. Those are some running backs that are catching my eye this week. Some guys I'm going to be looking to target come Sunday. Let's go ahead and move on to wide receiver. All right, so up top at wide receiver here, Antonio Brown, $9,500 going up against the Colts. I'm not going to tell you to not play AB. He's a great play. The Colts are not good defensively. They're not a good defense. AB is really expensive, though. You do get a really nice discount if you want to not play him. You want to come off of him. Julio Jones is 1.5K less and is in a really good spot playing at home against Dallas. So I think that might be the route that I go if I look to pay up for receiver. Take that discount and go with Julio Jones. Just love the spot for Julio. He could have had an insane game last week against Carolina. He nearly had 2 touchdowns, pretty much dropped both of them. I believe one of them was a little bit overthrown, then the other one just hit him right in the chest and he dropped it. So Julio could have had nearly a 40-point game against Carolina. We know he provides that kind of upside every week. And in this game that I think is going to be high scoring, like I said earlier, a competitive game, Julio could just totally smash, could definitely put up 20-plus DK points in this spot. Pairing him with Matt Ryan, I think is going to be a very popular combo this week. So definitely like Julio Jones. Love that discount you get if you go with him instead of AB. You save $1,500, and I think Julio could definitely outscore AB this week. So if I'm going to pay it for receiver, Julio would probably be the guy I would target at 8K. And then looking for some other receivers we can target. Right now, Dez Bryant is listed as questionable, but it looks like he's going to play for this game. I believe the news came out that he is expected to play. So I think Dez is a really good option this week at $6,900. Just getting him as much exposure to this Dallas-Atlanta game as I can. I think you can pair Dak and Dez in this game. You can pair Ryan and Julio. A lot of options, a lot of ways you can go to get exposure to this game. So Dez Bryant is a guy I definitely like here at $6,900. Right now, I'm recording this Monday afternoon. Like I said, he is questionable, but it looks like he's going to play. So he could definitely be an option we target here at $6,900. And looking for some guys sub 6K that I like, maybe some mid-tierish value plays. T.Y. Hilton, $5,900, coming off his best game of the year last week against Houston. Had an insane game, got 9 targets, 5 receptions for 175 yards and 2 touchdowns, 37.5 DraftKings points in his last game against Houston. Really broke out. Obviously, this is a much tougher matchup this week going up against the Steelers. But T.Y. is going to be playing at home. T.Y. has really good splits at home. If you look at his home and road splits, he plays a lot better at home, especially on turf. Turf is really where T.Y. plays better. We saw that against Houston. Houston does have a turf. They play in a dome. Anytime you get T.Y. in a dome, you got to consider this guy, even in a tough matchup. So he could be an intriguing play this week at $5,900. The price did rise $1,000, but I think he still might be worth that price tag, playing at home in the dome, even in a tough matchup. You know the Colts are going to have to throw the ball a ton. They're probably going to be playing from behind. So I think T.Y. Hilton, even with the price increase, definitely a viable option this week. 5,900. Another guy, 300 less from that game, JUJU SMITH-SCHUSTER at 5,600, going up against the Colts. Great matchup for SMITH-SCHUSTER. We saw last week he started against Detroit. That was his first start of the year, starting alongside AB. Him and AB were out there in 2 wide receiver sets against Detroit. JUJU put up a monster game, had 7 catches for 193 yards and a touchdown, saw 10 targets when JUJU got the start last week. And it looks like he's just going to continue to start. I doubt Martavis Bryant's going to be even active for this game. Even if Martavis is active, he's probably not going to have much of a role. So even though JUJU saw a huge price increase, I still think he's worth that price at 5,600, especially given the matchup against the Colts, a defense you know you're going to want to pick on. So definitely like JUJU here, 5,600. Sterling Shepard, 5,500, going up against the 49ers. I think Sterling Shepard, definitely a receiver option we can target at the mid-tier or looking for some value. It is a great matchup going up against the 49ers. And Shepard is going to see a ton of targets just for the rest of the season. The Giants really don't have anyone else to throw the ball to. Eli doesn't really have anybody else. Sterling Shepard should see plenty of targets just every week. He did see 9 targets in his first game back from injury. Last week against the Rams, got 5 catches for 70 yards, put up 12 DraftKings points. I would imagine Shepard's probably going to see close to 10 targets just from here on out every game. So definitely a viable option this week. 5,500. Keenan Allen. Really tough matchup this week for Keenan Allen, but this is an insanely cheap price tag on Keenan Allen. This guy's definitely a 7-8K receiver week in and week out. And this week we're getting him at just 5,400. Obviously a tough matchup. I'd imagine he's going to have to see Jalen Ramsey, who we know is a very good corner, probably one of the best corners in the NFL. But if somehow Jalen Ramsey gets suspended for this game, Keenan Allen might actually be a viable option here. I doubt he would get suspended. I doubt Ramsey would get suspended because he really didn't do much in that fight. But even if Ramsey plays, Keenan Allen, this price tag on him is just way too cheap. This guy still sees a ton of targets every week. Even if he's in a tough matchup, he'll still see targets from Rivers. So I think he might actually be a viable option here at 5,400, just given the price tag. Obviously the matchup, probably one of the worst matchups you can have in the NFL, but 5,400, really cheap price tag on Keenan Allen. So I think that makes him intriguing, just given the price. And then one more play, one more cheaper guy I like. Mohamed Sanu, 5,100, going up against Dallas. Just trying to get as much exposure as I can to this game. Mohamed Sanu been really consistent this year. Has yet to put up a game over or under 10 DraftKings points besides that one game against Buffalo when he got hurt. 10, 13, 12, 12, 19, and 11 DraftKings points. Just been really consistent for Sanu. We've seen him be involved in the red zone. Does have a couple red zone touchdowns this year. Also does see plenty of targets every week as well. So Mohamed Sanu, 5,100. Definitely think he is a viable option. If you're looking to go cheaper receiver, definitely a guy I'm going to have some exposure to here. And yeah, guys, I think that might be it for receiver this week. I don't think I'm going to have a ton of interest in any of these guys sub 5K. They just don't get enough targets, or somebody would have to get injured in order for them to be viable options. So yeah, I think that might be it for some receivers. Those are some guys I have my eye on this week that are catching my eye. Let's go ahead and move on to tight end. Alright, so up top this week at tight end, we got Evan Ingram, most expensive tight end on the slate, 6,200, going up against the 49ers. Don't have a ton of interest in Evan Ingram, just don't really like that price tag. I know he's been really solid, especially with all these receivers injured. Ingram's going to see a ton of targets every week. But that price, I don't really like paying that much for a tight end, so I'm probably going to shy away from him. If I was to pay up this week at tight end, definitely would target Jack Doyle, 5,200, going up against the Steelers. I know this isn't the greatest matchup for Doyle, but this guy just sees a ton of targets every week. If you just look in his last 4 games, he's had 11, 7, 14, and 9 targets. Has put up 17, 10, 33, and 14 DraftKings points. I would imagine the Colts are going to be playing from behind in this game. They're going to have to throw the ball. So Doyle, even in a tough matchup, could see 10 or more targets again. So I like him if you want to pay up at tight end. I don't really like paying up for tight end, but I think Jack Doyle, definitely a viable option if you do want to go that route. They're looking for guys a little bit cheaper. Austin Seferian-Jenkins, 4,800, going up against Tampa Bay. A revenge game for ASJ. He did play for the Bucks last year, I believe, or 2 years ago. This is a good matchup for ASJ. The Bucks defense has just not been good this year. They're pretty much depleted. And ASJ is one of the leading receivers for the Jets. One of the guys that Josh McCown really relies on. So I think he's definitely a viable option here. 4,800, revenge game for ASJ. If you want to pay up at tight end, I think he's definitely in play. Looking for some guys we can target that are a little bit cheaper than that. 4,100, Cameron Brate in that same game going up against the Jets. It looks like Jameis Winston's going to be out for this game. Looks like he's going to be out for a couple of weeks. I just got a notification on my phone. So I would imagine Ryan Fitzpatrick's going to be starting for the Buccaneers from here on out. So that would probably allow BRATE to get a little more targets. You wouldn't think that Fitzpatrick's just going to go out and chunk the ball 30, 40, 50 yards downfield to Jackson and Evans. He's probably going to throw a bunch of short routes, which should set up well for Cameron BRATE. And he is just 4,100. He is facing the Jets. So I think he's definitely a viable option at tight end this week. 4,100. And then one more tight end I like, or a couple more tight ends I like. If AJ Green does miss this game against Tennessee, Tyler KROFT could definitely be a viable option at 3,600 if AJ is out. He did only see 2 targets last week against Jacksonville, but that was a tough matchup. He still got 9.9 DK points. 2 targets. He did catch both of his targets for 79 yards. Obviously, sort of an outlier. That's not going to happen again. But if AJ Green is suspended for this game and if he does miss, Tyler KROFT is going to have to catch the ball. Somebody's going to have to catch the ball from Dalton. He's going to have to throw the ball to somebody. So Tyler KROFT could definitely be a viable option at 3,600 if AJ Green is suspended for this game. Then one more tight end I like, probably my favorite tight end this week at 3,200, George Kittle going up against the Giants. I've said this multiple times, but we just play tight ends against the Giants. You play tight ends against the Browns and Giants. They're 2 of the worst defenses against tight ends. I believe the Giants have allowed a tight end to score every week this season. So hopefully that trend continues this week. I think George Kittle probably going to be able to find the end zone. I wouldn't mind pairing him with C.J. Beathard if you want a really cheap quarterback tight end combo. You can definitely go Beathard to Kittle this week and load up on the studs. That might actually be something I look to do, especially in cash games, so that way I can fit in guys like Le'Veon Bell and all the other expensive receivers as well. So definitely look to George Kittle this week, probably one of my favorite tight ends at 3,200, going up against the Giants defense that has been terrible against tight ends this year. Love Kittle at 3,200. But yeah, I think that's pretty much it for tight end. Those are some tight ends I have my eye on this week that are catching my eye. Let's go ahead and move on to defense. Alright, so at defense this week, I wrote down 4 defenses. There are 4 defenses I'm going to be looking to target. First one, the Lions at 3,800 playing at home against Cleveland. We know this Browns offense is terrible. They turn the ball over pretty much every week. They get a ton of sacks. They take a ton of sacks. So the Lions in a really good spot if you want to pay up a defense. 3,800 does seem like a lot to pay for the Lions defense, but obviously a great matchup. Cleveland's offense is terrible, so I think the Lions are viable if you want to pay up. Also, love the Rams here, 3,600 going up against Houston. The Rams are going to be playing at home this week. They're going to be going up against Tom Savage. And if you watch that Houston game, Tom Savage, the dude is terrible, cannot throw the ball. He'll turn the ball over a ton. He'll throw interceptions. He'll take sacks. So a great spot for the Rams playing at home. They're probably one of my favorite defenses on the slate. Just quick early looks. They're the one that catch my eye the most at 3,600. And then 2 more defenses I'm going to be looking to target that are a little bit cheaper. At 3K, the Bears playing at home against Green Bay. We know Green Bay's not going to have Aaron Rodgers. Nick Hundley going to be their quarterback. And Hundley is young. He is a young guy. He will turn the ball over. He will make some mistakes. So I think that sets up well for this Bears defense. They could get some turnovers here playing at home. Definitely think they're a viable option. If you don't want to pay up, you want to go to the mid-tier looking for a cheaper defense, definitely think the Bears are viable at 3K. Then one more defense I like, 2,800. The Titans going up against Cincinnati. Like I said earlier, AJ Green could be suspended for this game. Andy Dalton going to be in some trouble if he doesn't really have anyone else to throw the ball to. Don't really know what Cincinnati's going to do if AJ Green misses this game. So that could make the Titans a viable defensive option here at 2,800. They're really cheap. And they're going to be going up against a Bengals offense that just has really been struggling lately. So I like the Titans. You want to go for a cheap defense. They really catch my eye here. 2,800 playing at home. But yeah, guys, I think that's pretty much it for defense. I think that's pretty much it for this video. Thank you so much for watching. Make sure you click that like button. Also, be sure to subscribe if you are new to the channel. If this is your first time watching a video on my channel, make sure you hit that subscribe button. And be sure to turn on notifications as well. Click the little bell icon next to the subscribe button. And if you do that, that will notify you every time I upload. So if you never want to miss out on any videos, make sure you do that as well, guys. Would really appreciate it. But yeah, guys, I think that's pretty much it for this video. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you back for Week 11. Good luck this week, guys. Peace.
Whoa, 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 whoa. Yeah, she shaking fast. Yeah, she dropping slow. Huh? What? Yeah, neck on fro. Whoa, 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 whoa.